Hey, everybody, welcome to episode 5 of the Backlog Exposed podcast. This is July 27th, 2018. We're recording on a Friday evening, so we're just trying to wrap it up, give you guys something to listen to for the weekend or Monday morning when you come on in. With me, as always, is Joe. Well, not as always, but almost as always. Joe, how you feeling today?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Feeling like $1 million, man. Feeling like $1 million.
That's awesome. So just to get things underway here, we are currently revamping our website, thebacklogexposed.com. You're going to be able to go there to get access to all of our social media, all that good stuff. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but if you care about Instagram and you care about Facebook and you care about Twitter, all the information is going to be there. Thebacklogexposed.com. Currently under construction at the time of this recording, but hopefully by Sunday evening, we're going to have all the information out there. And, Joe, we're hitting up quite a few sites. You can find us anywhere. What did you do today? You told me something about Apple?
Hey, man. So, I have the iPhone 8. I was driving back from getting some stuff from my dad, and I was curious. I was like, hey, Siri, go ahead and play Backlog Exposed. And boom, there it was. She popped
There
up.
we are.
Started playing the episode, man.
That's pretty awesome. It's for all
It's the little things in life, man. It's the little things in life you enjoy,
Yeah, and we're getting feedback pouring in. We've had a couple of people reach out and let us know what they think and everything. We haven't had anybody jump in yet and start talking about our Facebook page or our Discord or anything like that. We haven't had any feedback manually, I guess you could say. But that's okay. That stuff's going to start building out. I mean, to be honest, we haven't really done a social presence yet. And
we haven't really pushed that issue just yet. I mean, the Facebook, the Discord. I mean, we've talked about it, but we'll get there.
Yep, absolutely.
We'll get there.
Yeah, and I'm not too worried about it. I think really at the end of the day, when you look at it, we're starting to build it up. We're reaching the point that we need to reach when it comes to viewerships and stuff, and it's just going to grow. I mean, and that's pretty obvious to me. So, Joe, I appreciate all the great feedback we're getting so far, and I know a lot of it comes from you because you have such a unique perspective on a lot of this stuff, and it comes from that Kentucky vibe you got going on. So
that Kentucky swagger, baby.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now that you're back in Kentucky, from living in Maryland, what's the difference? You've been away from Kentucky for some time, right?
So I've been in 15 years in the military, so I've been back home now for about 3 weeks, and it's nice when you drive down a road, you wave at somebody, and it's like, oh my God, they just waved back. That's like the coolest thing I've missed in 15 years. Yeah. I mean, just the other day, I was driving my kids on my old bus route that I used to have, be on when I was their age, and we had to actually drive 9 mile an hour behind a guy on a riding lawnmower. So it's it's the little things in life that just make people happy, man.
That's right. That's right. And as I see you here on Skype, you got yourself a little goatee.
Well, for the last 15 years, I had to be clean shaven, so why not let it grow out a little bit,
That's right. Hey,
no big deal.
On behalf of all of us, thank you for your service. You probably hear that 100 times a day.
Hey, man, it never gets old, though. I enjoyed it. I'd do 15 more if I could.
Right. So, hey, I know a lot of people that listen to our podcast are gamers, and the people who have reached out so far, a lot of them are gamers. And I've seen this, I spend a lot of time on different Reddit subreddits and different websites. I read a lot of comments and things, and I'm just constantly seeing people talk about this missing gap in today's society of people talking about it. And that's exactly what our podcast is about. It's parents, mostly, guys, probably ages 25 to 35, 40, 45. And, they grew up gaming. I mean, when I was 6 years old, I was born in 1980, 6 years old, Nintendo came out. And, to this day, I mean, my son's 7 years old. He has played more video games in his lifetime than I did up until I met you, probably. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah.
They've
had games readily available from birth, man. I mean, the iPads, the iPhones, the leapfrogs. I mean, I was born in '85. I didn't have none of that stuff. I had, we grew up on the Nintendo, and then the Super Nintendo, and then everything was getting big. But again, you think back, I was raised in Kentucky, so we didn't have that much money to go out and buy the systems like I do now. If a new PS4 comes out, me and Kevin's going on Black Friday to get it.
That's right.
There was nothing like that when I was younger, when, the new system came out. I may have gotten a system every 3-4 years, but
Yeah.
I played what I had. Now kids get. I mean, just for instance, my kids. I mean, just because I'm spoiled, my kids are spoiled. I have every system on the market, so they get to see any game and every game and play any game and every game they want. And then, I mean, it's just for me, it's fun. And believe it or not, a lot of people don't understand that hand-eye coordination is a big deal in life, and believe it or not, playing video games does that.
So that actually allows us to kind of segue into what we're going to be talking about a little bit later today. So, one of the things is the nostalgia aspect, and you see all these different consoles and these systems coming out. We have a couple of reviews coming out today. One of them is for the NES Classic. My wife surprised me for my birthday the other day and picked this NES Classic up. And I'll just tell you right now, I love the fact that this stuff is happening. When my kid is playing these games that are just absolutely unbelievable, Fortnite or World of Warcraft or whatever, where these worlds, you're entering these worlds that are just, for a 7-year-old's mind to comprehend is pretty cool. And
Yeah.
But to bring up, and then you see them, they like these games like Roblox and Minecraft and Trove and all these other games that are very basic, you go, but they're so detailed. We'll pull them back a little bit and say, you like Mario? Here's Mario, man. Here's Mario back when he was 3 colors, tan,
Here's
red, and gray.
1985
Yep.
Mario, pixelated, looks like dog doo-doo,
Yeah.
but man, was that the best.
Beat that, and then they sit there and they get frustrated because it's a lot harder. These games were a lot harder back then. So
For sure, dude.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the NES Classic. We're going to be talking about the SNES system that came out. And another one that I saw the other day for virtual reality, and I've tested it out and I'll give a review, and that's the Sega Classic in VR. So we'll be jumping into that. But before we do, I want to segue into some stuff for our non-gaming fans, because we have a couple of people who've reached out to me and said, I like your podcast. It's pretty cool. I don't game, but it's interesting to hear you guys talk about it. Well, this part's for you, because this is not just a podcast about gaming. We're going to be talking about anything that might interest you. We're guys, so we're probably going to talk about stuff that interests guys, but women are allowed to join in and participate. And we try to do things for our wives, so I'm sure we'll have some good stuff for you out there, ladies. One of the things that we need to talk about right now is Tag. Okay, that movie came out a little while ago, but Joe and I got to hang out right before he moved to Kentucky. I went up to Maryland, and I'll tell you what, we didn't know what to expect walking into that movie, but our buddy Colton joined us, and we got warmed up real good, didn't we, Joe? What was that preview?
Oh my God, man, that movie! I swear, the preview you're talking, I can't remember the preview.
Wasn't it the Nun or I can't remember.
Oh man, hang on, I got it. Holy shit, flashback. All right, so everybody close your eyes. All right, so we're sitting in this theater, and you know how all the horror movies are. They freaking you out with the music and all this BS. Well, we're all three sitting there, and I hate scary movies anyway. So there's this nun, and she's like standing in the hallway, and I'm like, stupid, but the person is facing the screen and the nun's behind them, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is the same old, she's gonna turn around and scare. No, man, another nun lunged out of the left side of the screen. I shit my pants. I'm yelling. The whole theater's laughing at me. Man, it was pretty rough.
That was a pretty good warm up. The whole entire theater just started laughing at Joe because he screamed like a little girl, and he even said out loud, "I think I just shit my pants," and the whole entire theater started laughing. Holy cow, that scared the crap out of all three of us, though. And then it brought us into the movie.
That was probably the best scary preview of any movie I've ever seen in my life. Like,
oh, I agree.
You just knew that she was going to turn around. The nun was just going to be like, nah, man. She didn't even turn around. She didn't have time to turn around. This other nun done grabbed her. I was like, oh my God.
You remember the movie The Grudge?
I hated that movie, man. That's why I hate scary movies.
That
bitch that came out that TV. I'm done.
Yeah,
she came through the TV.
I could handle the TV.
I'm sorry. That's the wrong movie. The Ring. Let's go. Yeah, The Ring is the one that got me.
Well,
she came out of the well, and then I think the second one she came through the TV. I was done.
Yep.
I thought, I'm like, man, shit's getting real. She's coming through TVs.
Yeah. Well, the one that got me was the Grudge, and it's funny because I was back when I was, we were still dating, my wife and I, and I brought her to see that, and I screamed out loud at the scene where they were in the attic, and I probably haven't watched it since then, so my recollection of the scene isn't that good. But the camera panned around, and she's climbing up in this dark attic, and all it was a little Asian boy with a green video
Oh
filter,
yeah, man.
But that made me scream out loud, and to this day she still laughs at me every time we see a scary movie. She's like, "Remember The Grudge?" And it gets me. But I have a game.
That little boy scared me a couple of times, man, in that movie, because he's in it quite a few times in like
Yes, he
random
is.
locations. Just oh man, that's not a very good movie to watch. I'm telling you, it's not my forte.
Oh boy. Well, my boys are spilling water all over the kitchen floor. Isn't that the great way to podcast is to have the boys in the other room and keep yelling at them, be quiet. But that's the way the life goes. So with the with the Grudge and the Ring and everything, it leads me to one other thing real quick before we jump into Tag. So I have Resident Evil Biohazard, and if you recall, remember we were hanging out with Jason. We were watching, I think it was a UFC event, probably a good 2 years ago, and
Yeah.
I think it was Danielle was playing it, and that's a scary ass game, Resident Evil Biohazard in VR. Well, I bought it because I was like, I gotta have it, and it's still sitting right here, right next to me. I have not put it in to play it. I haven't even tried it yet because you have to prepare.
Chicken.
I know, but it's like a mental thing. You have to prepare yourself. You're gonna be scared, and do you like to be scared?
Especially in VR, man.
Yeah.
Especially in VR, it's gonna be worse.
I know it's masterful. They say it's like absolutely intelligently done. One of the best VR games to date, and it's been out since almost launch. And I haven't put it in because I'm just like I haven't psyched myself up good enough to go get the shit scared out of me. And one of the other things too is I always have my kids. They're practically all the time they're with me, and I'm not going to be playing that game with Crystal in the other room. So I got to have the house to myself.
She'll be messing with you, dude. She'll be like poking you and yeah.
Well, she's already done that a couple times while I'm wearing VR, so I try to not play VR when she's home just because. I mean, even if she doesn't mean to, she comes behind, touches my back, it scares the crap out of me. But tomorrow they're going away for the day. I think I'm gonna have the day to myself. I'm probably gonna plop myself down, play a little bit of Detroit Become Human. Probably gonna play a little bit of Resident Evil Biohazard, and if she's lucky, she'll come home. I'll be white as a ghost, and that'll be fun. So Joe, give me your thoughts on Tag. I mean, we had a great time hanging out watching this movie.
So a little backstory of Tag. It's an actual true story. It's a group of guys that started playing the game when I think they were 9, or they're all at the same age, about 9 years old. They wrote out the rules. I think it's May, the month of May.
Yep, every year in the month of May.
Every year, month of May, they play Tag, and they do it like that's no kidding. And there's that one guy that he's better than everybody, and that's Jeremy. What's his last name? What's his last name?
Renner. Jeremy Renner.
Jeremy Renner, and of course he's a badass. He's a badass in every movie he plays. So he's the one that for the last 20-something years they haven't got. But throughout that entire movie, I'm telling you, from start to finish, laughing nonstop. These guys are idiots. And
this one had an interesting cast. We have Jeremy Renner, Jake Johnson. He was the guy from The New Girl. I don't know a lot of the stuff he's in, but he's in that TV show, The New Girl. And then we got John Hamm, Ed Helms, and Hannibal Buress make up that main team. And then a couple of
what's his name is from the Hangovers.
Ed Helms. Ed Helms.
He's from so he's already funny.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's just, oh my goodness.
And then you got it backed up with Leslie Bibb. You got Rashida Jones, Isla Fisher, and Annabelle Walls. And I'll tell you what, Isla Fisher was absolutely hilarious in this movie. She was the wife of Ed Helms, right?
That's the redheaded chick. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. She's an idiot. Oh my God.
It was awesome.
Well, she's mad because she can't play. Remember how they made the rules? She wants to play, and they're like, "Nah, you can't play." And oh my goodness. I'm
And to
telling you,
top it all
if
off,
there's a group of guys out there just hanging out, you need to watch Tag.
yeah, it's
Man,
good to see. I don't know if it'd be as good to see with your girlfriend as much as it would be to see with a bunch of guys who you just you bullshit with. Maybe it'd still be fun, but we just laughed, man. I just remember almost every scene we were giggling, chuckling, laughing out loud, and the whole theater was just going at it. And I didn't expect it because I went into this thinking I have that read the movie pass, and I was just thinking, well, we got to use it for something, and this was the perfect movie. I mean, the three of us were just laughing. I mean, it started off pretty good, but I got to give a shout. Hannibal Buress, man, he's a riot as well. His comedy style is just so laid back and casual, but he fit the bill on this one, where he just kind of tucked in a joke or a one-liner here or there, and after you're already laughing and your gut hurts, you just keep laughing harder. So, I got to give this one. I don't know what our rating scale should be, Joe, but this is up there, man. I'd say for a comedy, it's probably not the best comedy of all time, but I'd say it's above a 7 for me, above a 7, 7.5.
Easily, man. I mean, I wouldn't even really rate it as with other comedies, but I would just rate it. It is a comedy, but I mean, dude, it's a phenomenal standalone type
Yep.
of comedy.
Yeah,
And I enjoyed it. I can't wait till it comes out on DVD. I'm gonna get it again. It's hilarious, man.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm looking here. IMDb shows a 6.8. I think that's a little low, a little underwhelming. And I also think, like I said, I think with the right audience, with the right crew that goes to watch it, you kind of get a little bit more out of it because, you can really enjoy. You can really enjoy the atmosphere more when you're with the people that you'd actually be doing this stupid game with.
Well, what's really interesting to me is the fact that it's a true story. Like, this is an actual game of tag between this group of friends every year for one entire month.
And
Like,
just to kind of,
it's a no shit. It's amazing that these guys actually, and today they still do it. They still play the game.
And to put it in perspective for those of you who are like still sitting there thinking, well, how the hell are you playing tag as an adult and all that? At the end of the movie, after the credits or whatever, they kind of give you the real life aspect of it. It's not like these guys are 60 years old running through the yard playing tag and saying you're it. It's more of surprise, I gotcha. So say, Ed Helms' character's name's Hoagie. Say he was it and he wanted to get somebody else. He would go to like the grocery store where this guy was checking out for his groceries, and he'd get behind the counter. So as the guy's like, about to pay for his groceries, the guy's like, tag, you're it. It was more of that, like, hey, I'm here in your town. Because when you're older, you're all far away. Like, you're in Kentucky, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. What if tomorrow you just go down the street and I'm standing there in Kentucky and I'm like, you're it, bitch? Because you know what? Right before we left, Joe, of course, he tagged me and he said, you're it. And I haven't seen him since in person. So,
when was that? That was back in back at the end of May. Yeah, after we watched the movie.
Yep.
It was 2 days after the movie. I went and took you to the airport, or I took you back to your hotel room, and I was like, "Hey, buddy, you're it." I got in my car and ran off.
So
he's like, "You son of a bitch." I was like, "Hey, man, see you next time."
And then our buddy Colton, we'll have to get him on here one of these times. But our buddy Colton, one of the funniest guys you can go hang out with. I don't even know, what it is specifically. He's just a fun guy to be around. And we went out to a haunted house not too long ago, or last year I think it was, and we'll get into that probably closer to Halloween. But we had a blast with that haunted house, and it was just a funny experience.
He's so terrified of clowns; it's not even funny.
Yeah, and he reached out to us and he said, "Hey, there's a haunted mansion or something over there in Kentucky." And
oh yeah, man, I'm down. I was talking to my sister-in-law about that, and she said every year for Halloween, a lot of people actually go there and do like a tour and stuff. So it's a legit place. I mean,
wouldn't you shit your pants if I was one of the people inside that house?
Oh, and you tagged me?
Tag, motherfucker!
I'd kill you.
So we'll see. I might have to think of something. It's going to cost me some money, but you're gonna be it next. But no, Tag was pretty good, so I recommend it if that's something you guys are looking at. Comes out on DVD. If you haven't catched it, or if you haven't caught it, grab it and take a laugh and enjoy it.
It'll make, if it doesn't make you laugh, let me know, and we'll have to take it to therapy.
Please give us feedback, because this is the kind of stuff I can't wait to see. People be like, "Oh, you suck. That movie sucked. I hated it." give us your feedback. Jump on our Discord at Backlog, or the Backlog Exposed, or our Facebook page, the Backlog Exposed, or Twitter at the Backlog Pod, and let us know what you thought of the movie, and we'll talk about it again. Another movie I know that we caught too over here with our kids, was Jurassic World, the new one that just came out. And
Man, that was. I like the first one. The first one was really well done. The Dominus Rex was, awesome. That was the new dinosaur they created, and then they had all these other dinosaurs, and of course the T-Rex is still in there, and all the little dinosaurs and Blue, and so the first one was amazing. I'm sure everybody's already watched the first one.
If you haven't, check it out. It's worth it.
Yeah, it's totally worth it. I mean, if you're a Jurassic Park or a Jurassic World, like what I don't even know what year that was when it first came out, in the early '90s when the original ones came out, and those were amazing.
98 or something. I'll tell you, real quick though, before you jump into this, one of the things for me is, when I was a kid, man, dinosaurs was my thing. For some reason,
oh, dude.
I just think back to my childhood, and it was G.I. Joes and dinosaurs, and I loved dinosaurs. And I remember going to like the Museum of Science or whatever, and seeing the T-Rex statue, and seeing the bones and all that, and the Brontosaurus, and can't even believe that the Brontosaurus doesn't even really exist anymore, and pisses me off. But that's the kind of stuff that when I was a kid, I loved it. And Jurassic World came out, and I was like, my mid-teens, and it was just phenomenal. I mean, you couldn't beat that movie. And you look back, I've watched it again, every couple of years you catch that one, and we've watched it with my kids, and they love it. And the
graphics are, in the Tyrannosaurus Rex back then, it was just horrible. You look at it now, it's horribly done. But
it is, but it isn't. I don't know.
Maybe
it's just my nostalgia, but I see it and I'm like, wow, they did pretty good. Like that T-Rex.
It's a lot with
Triceratops. Yeah,
that was a lot of work.
They did a bit of digital stuff, but back then they did a lot of stuff, with prosthetics and stuff. Like that Triceratops that was breathing, dying on the ground, and all that. That was like plastic. That wasn't CGI. And now you got nothing but CGI. So the dinosaurs just look 10 times better than you could even imagine. Yeah. And so I brought my son Wesley, 3 years old. I brought Jagger, 7 years old, and Wesley enjoyed it more than Jagger. They both loved it, but Wesley doesn't comprehend. I think we talked about this last week or the week prior. It doesn't comprehend that it's not real because of how real it looks. And so when that dinosaur, I don't want to give any real parts of the movie away, but yeah, a dinosaur dies in this movie. When that one is sitting there on that island and the ash comes and covers them up, holy crap. They didn't like that too much, because they're sitting there thinking it's a real animal about to die, and I'm trying to explain to them, this is, they don't exist.
It's just a movie, man. It doesn't exist anymore. But I mean, that's the whole point, though. That's what people go to the movies for. They want to go to the movies and feel as if at any moment a dinosaur is about to come through the screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they did a good job with this one.
I honestly believe the second one, I think it's called, Fallen Kingdom, it was better than the first one. Because the first one was a great movie, but the second one had so much more story behind it. The building, the buildup of the first one was good, and then the second one, it actually brought out what they were really talking about in the first one of what the guy that made the Dominus Rex and how he made it and why he made it, and then all of a sudden there's even more dinosaurs that he made, and the story built upon the first one and it kept going, and everything was so well planned, and there was no dull moments. There was no dead spots where like, oh, that was boring or this didn't make sense. And but yeah, the second one was amazing, man.
It didn't get, I'm looking right now. It's only got a 6.5 on IMDb, which I know these rating sites aren't the end all be all. Rotten Tomatoes and everything. One of the things that I've seen, and I even said this years ago when like the new Freddy Krueger movie had come out, and I don't think it's fair to take a rating from a critic who isn't into dinosaur movies. You know what I mean? So these are conglomerate ratings of all reviewers, and
he's probably a comedian fan or a thriller fan. He's rating on a dinosaur movie that doesn't even tickle his fancy. You know what I mean?
I think that's kind of one of the things with the podcast that I always wanted to get into too. I always said like, we are going to talk about specific. I'm going to tell you, I like this. Right? That might influence the score I give it because I like it. right? If I hate it, that's going to influence the score I give because I hate it. But I'm not going to try to be impartial. I'm going to try to tell you from my point of view what I think. And these reviewers who are seeing every movie known to man and trying every food that's ever been made and this and that, and they're coming up with their scores. It's really hard to get a true review from someone like that for something that you might like. So you see this 6.5. Well, when I watched Freddy Krueger, I loved it. I love Freddy Krueger movies. I'm kind of silly about it with Freddy Krueger movies. And then I went and saw the ratings, and people like 4.5 out of 10. And then I looked at the people who were rating that movie, and their previous ratings were like Brokeback Mountain and some other things. And it's like, how are you the type of person that should be reviewing this movie? I mean, not that your point doesn't matter, right? Because you're reviewing it on behalf of the people who like the types of movies you like.
But you gotta have it. You gotta have it brought it out. Like if you can't go into a scary, like for me, why the hell would I want to go rate a scary movie? Like I don't like scary movies. I'm probably gonna like ignore half the movie. I'm like, damn, finally the credits. Give it a 6. I don't even know what happened, but I'm gonna give it a 6.
So when I see these scores,
Predator, go watch movies you like and give a fair rating.
Yep. Exactly, and the same thing goes for the gaming industry and all that. If I started rating like NBA basketball games, it wouldn't be fair to the NBA community because my rating wouldn't really apply. It would only apply to people who like the kind of games I play. And if I said, hey, look, for example, car racing, I am not a car racing fan, but I'm going to tell you right now, do it in VR. Do it in VR because I love car racing in VR. Now, that's a valid car racing rating because it's a genre that I can speak to because I like VR. And now here's a genre I don't like, car racing, and they merge, and now all of a sudden I like it. So that being said, Jurassic Park, man, the one scene my 7-year-old lost his mind to was the freaking goat. And he had seen Jurassic Park 1, and it's the kind of, they paid homage to that, where the goat gets eaten and everything by the T-Rex, but he just hates seeing animals die. He could see, he could see a guy get eaten, but like at the end of Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, that mastod, whatever that thing comes out of the water, the megalodon.
Oh yeah, the megalodon.
And then eats the guy off the helicopter or the woman off the helicopter. He didn't care. He kind of laughed at that. But you see a goat, just a sad little goat get eaten, tears, buckets, raining buckets out of his eyes.
Hey man, dude likes animals. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I definitely give that one easy an 8. Yeah. Easy an 8. That movie was amazing. I could watch it. I've already watched the original Jurassic or the Jurassic World that came out a few years ago. I've already watched that thing a dozen times with my kids. They absolutely love it. And again, it does go with the cast. I mean, you do have Chris Pratt in there. That dude's what movie has he made that's not good?
He is hilarious, man. He really does bring it home. I'll watch Lego Movie or whatever. That guy's funny.
Yeah. So.
And then did you know?
Go for the family.
Did you know the lady that his whatever her name is, his co-lead Claire? Do you know who that is?
She looked familiar, and I watched the movie before. I just can't put her.
She
face
is the daughter of Ron Howard.
Really?
Yeah, Ron Howard. So
wow.
Powerhouse right there. And there's one other guy. We've been talking about movies a bit, but there's one other guy in that movie, Toby Jones. His name was in the movie was Mr. Eversole. He's that short, weird-looking dude who, the villain that was doing the auction and all that.
Yeah.
Okay, that guy, keep an eye out for him. I've been seeing him pop up in lots of things, and I was looking at his IMDb bio, and it's like, wow, it doesn't seem like there was too many things that, I mean, he's in a lot of stuff, but not stuff that I've necessarily watched. But there's a couple of them, and he just really stands out. A lot of the time,
he's got that kind of character, though. He's got that look about him, that character that, he could probably fit this weird part of this movie.
Yeah, he kind of plays the same character in all of them. Like he was in Captain America, he played almost the same character. And then have you ever seen Sherlock, the TV show Sherlock?
I never watched a TV show.
Okay, so there's a TV show called Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch, and I will tell you what, that one right there, that's a good series. It just finished up, but it's got Benedict Cumberbatch and what's the other guy's name? Martin Freeman, the guy who played Bilbo Baggins in Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit, and he's funny as well. So like those two put a pretty good TV series on. It's kind of like mini movies. Each episode's like over an hour, but and there's only like 9 total episodes for the whole 3 seasons. So check it out. But that's a phenomenal show. This guy played a villain in one of those seasons of that show, and again, he just keeps popping up. So be on the lookout for that guy. I mean, he's interesting. He's an interesting character. He definitely looks weird. Toby Jones, but that's his part, man. This guy's gonna be. I think we'll start seeing him in a lot more of our movies.
That's his niche,
over
man.
here in America.
You get that niche, and that's it. You fall in line, and all of a sudden, people want you.
That's right. So, one other movie that that I wanted to hear about. You had seen the movie Skyscraper with The Rock, and
all right, now
I'm a Rock fan.
As soon as you said that, everybody listening was like, "Oh my god, man!" I'm telling you, So I was at the house. I just got back home. It was me and my wife, and I'm sitting there at my parents' house. My mom's like, "Hey, I've never watched a 3D movie. Let's go watch that Skyscraper movie." My exact words, "Mom, that movie is going to be horrible." I was like, I'm a huge Rock fan. The dude plays, amazing movies. I mean, The Rundown, Walking Tall. I mean, you name it. The dude's a phenomenal actor. He really is.
The Rundown was hilarious, by the way.
Oh, yeah, dude. That movie was. But all of his movies are actually, fairly good. I like them. And the new Jumanji. That was awesome.
Great. That was great.
Awesome. So, I'm going into this. I'm like, all right, you know what? It's The Rock. He's been making nothing but good movies. Surely to goodness he didn't file bankruptcy or something and just try to make this movie, So, we go in there and it's 3D and we're watching this movie. And the whole way through it, I'm just like, holy shit, this is a really good movie. I mean, obviously the part where everybody's, oh, this is going to be stupid is when he jumps from that crane into the building. Come on, man, it's a movie.
Yeah.
Like, movies aren't supposed to be. I mean, for crying out loud, who watches Mission Impossible? You're not gonna hang on the back of a C-130 while it's 1,000 feet in the air. You know what I mean? Come on, like, it's a movie. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to make this shit look crazy, and that's what they did. But yeah, man, action packed. The Rock did a awesome job. But the whole time through the movie, he's trying to protect and save his family, and then that's where the skyscraper comes from, and they're trapped in there, and the building's doing some crazy stuff and it's on fire, and yeah, man, the Rock gets crazy and busts in the building. Obviously he jumps off that crane, but I would definitely, believe it or not, tell you guys to go watch it. It's worth it. I mean,
I'm gonna check this movie out, but I just thinking about it, like a movie about a skyscraper. I mean, I guess the title is probably more along the lines of the problem.
So the thing about it is there's no real understanding of why the building is such a main part of the movie until you actually watch it. There's a huge story in there of the owner of the building created pretty much. I think it's almost a mile high. It's like this huge, it's like 4,000, 5,000 foot tall structure, in Hong Kong, and in the middle or the very, pretty much at the top of it, he put a sphere, and no one knows what's in there because the building isn't legally allowed to be above so many floors yet until The Rock, which is a inspector, goes in and says, yeah, your building is now available to be open because it's passing inspections. And, a lot of dirty stuff starts happening, but
you're telling me there's shady people in the industry of building skyscrapers?
No, not at all, dude. But yeah, that's the thing that you don't get from these previews. You just see The Rock jumping into a burning skyscraper, and you're like, this movie's stupid as hell. But the story behind it is actually pretty impressive because anywhere you go, if you're a multimillionaire and I'm a multimillionaire, and you're building structures and I'm doing something else, but you're making more money than me, I don't like you. I gotta find a way to either literally burn you to the ground, or outdo you some way or form. And that's what this movie's about, is just money-hungry people and people being dirty. And
well, I'll tell you, man,
it's a good story. It really is.
It really, when you look at one of the things I find kind of funny is when you look at the covers of like the posters for movies in 2018 or 2017 or 2016, they almost all look identical. For the action movies, it's like the action hero reaching out, falling from something, or you know, if it's like the Mission Impossible, it's like the one character standing in the center with two people beside him. You know, they mimic, all the industry is mimicking each other to kind of have like a feel,
same,
a look,
yeah.
a brand,
The
because they got to
Kingsman,
compete.
the Kingsman's poster, same thing. It's
Yeah, and
the like
so
the circle, and they're all standing there.
and you know, to me, I hate that non-uniqueness. I hate the fact that everything's got to try to be the same as opposed to trying to be unique. And so this just, to me, it screams, you know, big movie producer making a decision that probably isn't for the best of the movie. Like, we're going to call it Skyscraper. It's like, well, no, it'd probably be better with a different name. No, Skyscraper. And we're going to put a big old skyscraper on the cover and, you know, with The Rock reaching out. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely way off base, but I feel like...
I mean, for this movie, it doesn't work. Like, the preview, the poster, and all the advertising, it didn't work. Because, like, when I watch it, and I'm like, okay, why is The Rock jumping off of a super crane into a burning building, and then he's hanging on the edge, and I'm like, what the hell? It's like there was like no background, no backstory, no filler on any of these previews, and everybody literally was just talking shit about it on the internet. I mean, there was Facebook memes of The Rock, and they were drawing parabolas and like mathematical equations, like it's impossible, you can't jump that far, and that doesn't bother me because, I mean, come on, it's a movie.
It's a movie.
I mean, if The Rock wants to jump 700 feet, he's gonna jump 700 feet because it's a
and
movie.
I'd be happy to watch it, man. I'll watch anything that guy's in.
I'll watch anything he's in.
So,
but I mean, honestly though, you need to watch it because the story is what makes the movie. I mean, that it's got a good story behind it. It really does.
I'm a Rock fan. I guess he's, you know, I'm hearing he's going to be in the villain in one of these superhero movies coming up, and I forget which one, but I think it's Shazam. And I'm looking right here, and I see him. He's Black Adam.
Oh, really? Black Adam?
Yeah,
nice.
he's gonna be Black Adam. And have you seen the preview for the new Shazam movie coming out?
No, not yet.
Okay, so after this podcast, go on YouTube, just check it out. It is absolutely awesome. I don't know why it's awesome. It looks kind of cheesy, but I think that's what I love about it, especially knowing that it's got a couple of really strong characters attached to it, or actors attached to it. So the story of Shazam, at least told by this trailer, is that it's two boys, and the kid wishes he becomes a superhero or something or whatever, and he says Shazam, and boom, he turns into Shazam whenever he wants to by saying Shazam. So, you know, he becomes a bigger adult-looking superhero, kind of like the movie Big with Tom Hanks. You know, he's like, and his friend's like, "Who the hell are you?" You know, and he's like, "I'm Shazam. I'm your buddy." So, anyways, check out. It's been a couple of days since I watched the preview, so I don't want to butcher the quotes or anything, but it looks good, and the preview does not allude to the fact that Dwayne Johnson is in it, but he is, and I'm really looking forward to that one. And another one. I've seen a couple of trailers for Aquaman, but the newest trailer for Aquaman looks
Haven't seen the newest one.
Holy shit.
Who's that movie. Jason Momoa, right? Or is that's his name? That dude is. I mean, I thought he was great in Justice League. I mean,
he was great in Justice League. He's funny.
He fit the bill. He was a prick. He was huge to the point. He didn't. I mean, whatever. You know, Batman went and found him, and he was like, "Dude, you can swim underwater." He's like, "What about it?" And just he was gone. Like, you know what I mean? He didn't care.
You know what's funny?
What are you gonna do to that guy?
What's funny about Jason Momoa is, you know, the way you envision Aquaman as a kid. You know, this blonde haired, you know, almost looks like what's the guy out of Scooby-Doo? Fred. You know, just kind of like Fred with spandex on. That's how he was portrayed in all the cartoons when we were kids, you know, and now all of a sudden you got Jason Momoa, who's the Dothraki Lord from, you know, Game of Thrones. And he's going to play this part very well. I think he'll be the reason DC kind of gets a little bit of a bump. And then you have movies like Shazam and a couple of these other ones. I really do think, you know, Wonder Woman was pretty good. And the casting for that was phenomenal. That was good. So DC just needs that same bump that Marvel gets. They have a hard time, in my opinion, with their advertising, and then the movies don't follow through like they should as well. Like I was not a huge fan of a lot of these DC movies that have been coming out. I liked them. Batman versus Superman was pretty good, but I'm a Superman fan. You know, I grew up with Superman being the superhero, and it wasn't until Justice League when Superman absolutely kicks the shit out of everybody and starts beating up his own team, you know, that you see how powerful he really is. He's faster than the Flash. He's stronger than, you know, Aquaman and all of that. So I really hope that they start to make him more of a central character.
All jokes aside, Ben Affleck did a badass job.
I think so too.
And the new
Krista,
Batman.
my wife hates Ben Affleck as Batman for some reason. I think he did a good job. He played the prick part perfectly.
Well, Christian Bale is just he's a, I don't know, man. To me, he's like
whoa, don't you go there. He's my favorite Batman.
He's like a whiner, man. Like he's a whiner. I mean, even all right. What really kills me about Batman, though, I'm not gonna lie to you, is like, hey, I'm Bruce Wayne, but you put the mask on, it's like, hey, I'm Bruce Wayne, I'm Batman. I'm like, come on, dude, your voice will not change that dramatically.
Oh, when Christian Bale was doing Batman, he's like, hey, everybody, how are you? I'm Batman. You know, it's like ridiculous.
But Ben Affleck didn't change that much. I mean, he just, I actually like Ben Affleck better in Batman.
He was more true to the character too. You know, like Bruce Wayne is a billionaire philanthropist who doesn't have a whole lot of special skill. I did like the Christian Bale aspect because they showed the training he went through to become skillful in the concept of being Batman. You know, like how do you run up the walls? Well, you don't run. He doesn't have a special skill. He learned how to do it. So I loved that aspect of those genre of movies.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Christian Bale all the Batmans are great, but I mean, I just really like how Ben Affleck pulled it off. But speaking of Ben Affleck, I'm gonna throw out one more movie for you: The Accountant. Man,
I don't think I saw that one.
Dude, that has got to be one of the best movies Ben Affleck has ever made.
When did that come out? A while back?
That's about a few years, man. It's called The Accountant. I'm telling you, I won't go much in detail about it. I know the podcast, we still got to talk about the SNES and stuff, but The Accountant, people go YouTube it, go Google it. I'm telling you, pick it up. Great movie. He's an accountant, obviously, but he does it for some backdoor companies. Man, I'm telling you, it's a great movie.
I'm gonna check that out. You know, Ben Affleck's a Boston boy, so I support his movies, man.
I've always liked him.
Where I'm originally from.
Even all the way back to his old Paycheck Day. Remember that movie, Paycheck?
Oh my goodness, yes.
That was one of my favorite movies for like the longest time. But
he's always been pretty good in these movies. Hey, one more movie or one more thing before we move forward. Did you hear Joaquin Phoenix is going to be the next Joker?
Oh my God, really?
Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix.
He's doing an origin story of the Joker, and I think he's going to be closer to the Heath Ledger Joker than any other Joker. I'm not a huge fan of the Jared Leto Joker. I thought that was just
he wasn't your typical Joker though. He took it. He tried to take it the route that Jim Carrey took it.
Yes, with the Riddler.
Yeah, he tried to take it like Jim Carrey took it with the Riddler.
Yeah.
Because that's just Jim Carrey's character.
But I hear these stories. I hear these stories of how like Jared Leto played that offset. And I'll be honest with you, Joe. I don't care how hard you got to do your job. You come home, start acting like that around me, I'm gonna smack you upside your goddamn head. That guy deserved to smack upside. If that guy was acting like that,
isn't he a singer too? Isn't he in a band?
Yeah, he's in a band. He's got things to do, but I guess they put themselves.
That's what I'm saying. So like, I don't believe all the hype. I mean, the movie was awesome. I mean, Will Smith played an awesome part. All those characters were awesome. But what's her name? Harley Quinn. That girl is off her rocker. She's insane.
They're doing a movie with her as the lead. the women of DC or whatever, the female
and it'll probably be good. It just I'm with you though. I didn't really much care for the way he portrayed the.
Well, they also butchered it. Going back to the producers and all that, and the execs, they made the the director reworked that movie. So from what I understood, there was more scenes with him that helped explain the reasoning for the way he was that they just completely cut out. And they were supposed to be
Oh
doing
yeah,
an actual
I remember
Joker
reading
movie
that.
with him as the lead, but we'll see. We'll see. But you know, we
Didn't
could
they
talk
get
about
like
this.
75% to that movie and then they went back? Yeah, they were almost done filming
Yeah, and
and
they
they had
went
to go
back and
back
reshot it. Yep.
and reshot like half of it. Yeah, I remember that. That was a big ordeal. But yeah.
So
Anyway, man, we'll push on. We'll push
yeah,
on.
we'll push on. Let's get into some video games. I mean, we've given these non-video gamers enough. You better have listened this far. That's all I'm saying. So real quick, I'm going to touch on this Nintendo Classic. So the Nintendo Classic, it price ranges anywhere from $50 to $65, $70, depending on where you get it, eBay or Amazon or whatever. But I'm looking at Nintendo.com right now. You can get it for $60. So what it has, it's the size of the palm of your hand, and it has two controller slots, just like the original Nintendo. It's got a power button and a reset button. It's shaped exactly like the old Nintendo, but it's just tiny. Now here's the problem. The HDMI cable they give you is about 3 feet long, and the controller, the cable for the controller, is probably less than 3 feet long. So with these
Yeah,
new
you got to
40-inch
be on the
TVs,
TV.
you're on the TV, and the TVs now are 60 inches and bigger and whatnot. So that's the one con I'm going to throw out of here right away is that, you know, they sell adapters for these controllers, but the plug is proprietary. And I find that to be bullshit. That's utter bullshit that Nintendo, of all companies, this is not a third party. This is Nintendo releasing this. And it's not a USB slot, but they're
Yeah,
going
it's
to
a
tell you
super weird. It's a super weird plug, and yeah, you're
it's a
not just gonna
weird
go
plug.
find it at a dollar store or
And
something.
then they tell you, hey, when you pick up this controller, you're going to want to pick up another controller and 2 extension cables. Bullshit. I say bullshit to that. And, that Nintendo, shame on you for that, because no one is going to be sitting 3 feet from their TV these days.
No, not at all. All right,
All
let's
right.
go. I'll bring it up.
I'm hitting record right here. We put it on pause, but I'm bringing this right back because while we're done talking about movies, we're getting into games here. And Joe is trying to get me into this. What's this game called, Joe?
All right, it's a game on here on your phone. It's called War and Order. All right, so basically what it is you run your kingdom. You have your team you build up. You go harvest food, rock, stone, iron, all this other stuff, right? So I seen it on Facebook, so I was like, hell with it, I'll do it. So I downloaded the game, and I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna spend a little bit of money just to see how it really works out. I spent $20, people, $20. You get 30 days. You get 1,000 gems a day. All this other crazy stuff. So I created an alliance. It was 200 gems, and as I'm going on through here, I got a good following. I have like 21 people in this alliance. So I messaged these guys. And I was like, hey man, this actually took off faster than I thought. So I turned the alliance over to somebody because I'm about to get a job. I'm gonna be on second shift. I'm gonna be back and forth and everything. So I turned it over, did the right thing, just in case I couldn't play. So we're still texting back and forth. And just the other day, this guy, his name's Tyree1, one of the guys in my alliance, he texted me on the side and he was like, hey man, by chance, is your name Joe?
Oh
And
shit!
I was like, yeah, man, it is. It's a little weird. I was like, so how did you come up about that? So mind you, my name on here is Team Emar Gaming, right? No big deal. So he was like, I kept reading your name and I knew it had to be something significant. No one's just gonna use that as a gamer, a gaming name. So he looked me up. He went to my website. He was like, dude, you got a podcast, you have a YouTube channel,
Oh shit!
you're playing this game. He goes, you have a job. He goes, how do you do all this? And I was like, well, that's one of the reasons I'm turning the alliance over, man, because I can't run it, But
For
this
real.
the game's intense, man. I mean, you have people on here that like live and breathe this game, and it's kind of scary. You have like other alliances that's coming to attack you, and you gotta like
Let me tell
you
you a
have to
quick.
like
This,
oh man, it's crazy.
this just
Good
reminds me.
game though.
This reminds me of a game. So before cell phones were really big, I mean, like I think I had a BlackBerry at the time. This was probably, I don't know, 2007. Maybe I could be completely way off here, but so there was this game called Travian, Travian. I think it's still around, but in its early days, this game was all out war. And the way you did it was they had seasons. You'd you'd pick a spot on this map, and then you would try to grow your base, and they roped you in, man. The first day, it's like, oh, you just need to get some wood and some resources, and then you got to start building your army, and it takes literal time to start building your army and to start getting your thing bigger, and then you can attack the bases around you. You could send your army across the entire map if you wanted to, but it might take 60 days to truly get there. Boy, man, we had alliances, we had groups, we had 60, 70 people that we knew playing this damn game, and it got so convoluted because the more you played this game, the more you had to do in it.
Oh yeah,
and,
that's how
and you
this
could,
game is. I'm like,
yep.
Jesus.
You could speed things up. You just pay $5 and boom, all your missions are done or this or that. Next thing you know, you're paying $60, $70 because you're like, man, I just got to get my axemen crafted, I got to do it quick. And man, we had it was fun. I got to admit, it was fun, but you were waking up at 3 o'clock in the goddamn morning just to send an attack at a specific time. And we had this stuff coordinated. And I'll never forget this guy, Red Keith. That was his name, Red Keith. I didn't know him in real life. We just knew him from the Alliance. And me and my brother and a bunch of friends, we ran this Alliance. And Red Keith was like this knight in shining armor coming along. We could trust him with our bank. We could trust him with our resources. And he would stay up. He'd do the night shift for us. And he would stay up. And he had a massive army. And one day, he was coming to Tampa. And he said, you live in Tampa, let's get a beer. And we ended up hanging out, and the guy sells boats and everything, and ended up, we talked for a little bit, became friends for a little while, and that fell off. But it's funny, man, when you start getting people reaching out to you for this kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, this game, it's the same way. Like, you start out and you level your castle to 2, and then it's to 3, and then before you know it, you're like, oh shit, I'm at 7, and then oh okay, here comes time to attack me. Oh, I won, and they give you a bunch more stuff, and then you get people in your alliance, and like, hey man, let's rally up and beat this level 10 monster, and then you beat that monster, and you get a bunch more shit. Dude, it's intense. I mean,
Those games are fun, man. But when you can actually group up with people, I think games that build alliances the right way. There was a game called Shadowbane before World of Warcraft, before all that stuff. Before my wife and I met, I played the absolute hell out of this game called Shadowbane, and it was an open world MMO, just like World of Warcraft. But the concept, and this was very early on, was that you get your character and you can navigate this map. And in this huge map, there's 3 zones that are safe. You cannot get attacked in any of those 3 zones. But literally anywhere else on the map, if you leave this city, that city, or the other city, you could get attacked the second you walk out that door. And if you get attacked and you die, your body turns into a tombstone and anybody can loot your body. And there were no banks. It wasn't like that. Everything you had was on your person. So when you died out in the open, if you didn't have a guild or an alliance that was protecting your body or grabbing your shit for you, that person stole your shit. So we played that game quite a bit, and me and my friends, and I had a buddy of mine, Marcus, we ended up navigating, one of the hardest things to do was build a city in the early days of this game, because it took relentless grinding to get enough to get a seed. You take that seed, you plant it, a tree grows, and that's the center of your city. And all this stuff takes time. So to get that seed was a hell of a lot of work. And so we were walking around. We were both stealth assassins. We're walking around the countryside out in the middle of nowhere, and this guy is walking around, and I peek into. He didn't know I was standing right next to him. I peek into his bag, and he had a seed. So we executed him right there, and right on his dead body, I planted my first tree. Boom. Built my city right on that guy's dead body. And what followed next was the probably a good year of my life that just evaporated into that game. I played 9 to 15 hours a day easily in Shadowbane. I had one of the biggest alliances with me and a friend, and we were co-joined with another alliance, and we lived and died that game. To fight in that game, and I've never seen a game like it. They've tried to kind of come up with a couple of games like it, but nothing like this, man. The PvP aspect of this game was phenomenal. you could siege another castle, right? I could say, I'm going to come take your city and demolish it. But you had to set up a time, like a war time. You say, okay, next Thursday morning at 4 a.m. is when your tree is going to be susceptible to our attacks. Or you could say in 10 minutes, right? It's going to be in 10 minutes, but you have to be ready to go. So you would always set up a time that you knew that was going to be tough for your opponents to defend, but then you also had to have an army and you had to take down their walls, and this shit was real, man. Shadowbane was real back in the day, and the problem was the company that supported it didn't have a lot of backing and kind of folded, and their game couldn't handle the pressure of all the people playing it, so it crashed a lot.
Well, the problem I have though with like War and Order is, you have these alliances like the big three alliance right now, as they call themselves 420, the KIL alliance, and there's a couple other ones. They have like 80 and 90 million battle power, and my alliance has 4.2 million battle power. We're ranked like 49th right now on the server, but I'm like, dude, you talking 4.2 million to 80, 90 million?
Yeah, how do you even compete with that?
You can't even compete with that. So it's like, and as soon as you start an alliance, they're just hounding you. Oh, join us, or we're gonna come and attack your city.
Well, that's what happened on this game, Shadowbane. There was a guild that owned the entire map, and they came along and they said, if you don't join us, we're going to attack you. And they would force all the people that they made pay compensation. They would force them to pay them a tariff or whatever to just exist, or they took them out. And so that lasted a while until I was part of the group that helped defeat that bigger company, that bigger guild. And then once that was broken apart, that's when our guild was the biggest and strongest. But yeah, man.
So on War and Order, what they do, so you can become friends, alliance members, or in a union together.
Okay.
So friends is just you set somebody to a friendship. They want to attack you. They can attack you still, but it'll flag and say, hey, these guys are your friends. Now, if you're in a union together, you're pretty much co-alliance with them. And anytime you go somewhere, like say you go to their elite mine, for instance, their stone mine, and you grab sources from them, well, they get like 30% of what you gather. Or they'll come to your city and they'll own it and get what you have. And they just go around farming everybody instead of attacking them or killing them. So they try to do that to us, and I was like, nah, I'm not. I was like, I'll just go down. I'm not gonna be somebody's farm bitch. I'm like, this ain't happening.
Yep.
So I got a pretty good group of guys on here, man, and there's about 10 of us that stuck together, and we keep scaring around the world and grabbing more people.
I have this problem. It's called addiction to video games. So I'll probably, if I jump in there, I probably wouldn't be able to back off. So we'll see.
We could rule the world, Kevin.
Me and you, Pinky. I want to rule the world.
Dude,
at
we
least
could probably
virtually.
go on there for real.
I think
you'd have a good time on it. It's a fun game, but it does take a lot of time.
I will give it a shot.
It takes some time.
So getting back, I was
sorry
talking
about the tangent.
Yeah, no, it was worth it. He was telling me about this when I was on pause here, and I know we were talking about the Nintendo, but I was like, I have to. He didn't want to talk about this on the podcast. I was like, no, this is going on the podcast. This is perfect. So I don't care. We have no time limits. We have no time limits on our podcast. If you're done, we're about the hour mark. If you're done listening to us, go ahead and shut it off. But if you want to hear some reviews, keep it coming or keep it playing, because we got the Nintendo Classic. So get this. Okay, Nintendo came out in 1985. I was saying 1986 earlier, but that's when I got it, I think. Maybe it was December.
I wasn't going to correct you. I wouldn't do that to you.
I think you did, actually. A little while later, you said 85. But
oh, okay.
So I'm looking now, though, but I think it was 85 for Christmas. I think that's what we got. We got it Christmas at 85. So really 86 is when I played it, because 5 days later, 6 days later. So what you get in the box is you get this little system that has all the games on it that come with the system, and then one controller. So again, like I was saying earlier, shame on you, Nintendo. Come on, you can give us 2 controllers. These things don't cost anything to manufacture anymore. You have a million of them, and the cases and all that. So 3-foot long cable, if that, and all that. But that being said, the controller feels exactly like it used to. You got this, thing. And I remember one of my neighbors came over and I was showing him this the other day, and he said, "Is this really what the controllers were like?" Because he wasn't around back in the original Nintendo. It's like, yeah, man, that's what we had to put up with was that. But that was the shit, because before that was Atari joysticks where you had one button and a shift stick.
Yep.
So with this game, you get a bunch of stuff. So you get 30 of the best retro games ever, according to Nintendo. And, we're going to start off with Super Mario Bros. How could you not have Super Mario Bros? But they also have Super Mario Bros. 2 and 3 in there. And I'll tell you what, Super Mario Bros. 3 was that was one of the games I loved so much when I was a kid, playing Super Mario Bros. 3 with my brother. And, funny little weird side thing, but there was I don't know if you remember, in Super Mario 3, there was a level where you jump in and you'd fall from the sky and there was coins everywhere. It was like a special level. We called that Trump Tower for some reason. We'd be like, "Oh, get to Trump Tower, get to Trump Tower." That was back in, 88. Now here we have Donald Trump as president of the United States. Just kind of interesting how the world plays out. But
2-second segue to Super Mario 3. Do you remember the movie The Wizard?
Oh yeah, I remember the movie The Wizard.
Oh man, that
was
movie
with what,
great.
Kevin Arnold, right? Or whatever his name was?
The kid from
The Wonder Years.
Wonder Years, yeah, that kid.
That was a good movie.
Anyway, my bad. Go ahead. I just now thought of that. You're saying Super Mario 3. That's when that game first came out.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
1989.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to read through the list of games here. I'm not going to review them all because we've played these things 20, 30 years ago. But we got Legend of Zelda, classic. I mean, if you're a kid today, if you're listening to this podcast and you never played the original Legend of Zelda, take yourself, put yourself through the test and see if you can get through that. Because when you finally get to Ganon at the end of that one and you play that game, you feel like you've accomplished something like you have never accomplished before. Because that was one of the first adventure games that actually had a story, that actually mattered. And when you beat that game, you felt like a god. Do you agree, Joe?
Oh, I agree 100%. That game was hard as hell.
Yes, it was. So it also comes with the original Donkey Kong, which is where Mario made his debut. You go up and down the chutes and ladders there and got to make your way and save the princess. So that's where Mario and the princess came from. Mega Man 2. Actually, if you remember that, I don't think it's on here. I'm going to get to it. But the original Mario Brothers game was a left to right, like the Goombas or whatever were falling from the sky and you just kind of jumped on their heads. And it wasn't a left and right scroller. It was just like a Donkey Kong type game where, you had to bounce on their heads and stay in that zone. So yeah, Mega Man 2's in this one, Pac-Man, Final Fantasy, the original Final Fantasy, which was just a hell of a game. You got Metroid, Kirby's Adventure, Castlevania. We were talking about that last week, the last podcast. Ninja Gaiden, one of the best games I've ever played.
The best game ever.
Unbelievable. Dr. Mario. That's the first one I played was Dr. Mario.
Oh man, that game was awesome. It's a very, very good Tetris game, but with
very good Tetris game.
Mario.
That was their counter to Tetris, and that song will get stuck in your head forever.
Yeah, it does.
Now, I think this one's funny. It's called Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream, but we all know that one as Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. They just got sued by Mike Tyson for making him look like a goon on the front of the cover, and he got taken off that game. Balloon Fight, which was a silly one. I remember playing it, but I don't think I liked that one too much. Donkey Kong Jr., Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link. Now, that one was an interesting one. That's probably the weakest, in my opinion, the weakest Zelda game, but it was still good. It was still a good game.
Man, all the Zelda games, man, they're so good. I mean, holy crap.
Yep. And then we have Excite Bike. We were talking last week about Trials Fusion and the modern day Excite Bike age.
Yeah, man, that's the new modern day Excite Bike. You're right.
Yeah, and you got the original here. You could still turn on Excite Bike and play that one. I remember you could make your own little courses and stuff in that one, and it was phenomenal. Then you got Ice Climber and Kid Icarus. Man, I don't know if you remember playing Kid Icarus, but I do, and that game was the bomb. I loved Kid Icarus. We also got Double Dragon 2, Bubble Bobble, Tecmo Bowl, Castlevania 2. Oh, it does have the original Mario Bros. On there. I'll have to jump in there and get that.
Yeah. Of course it does. Come on, man.
That's true. Then we got Super C, which is Contra. Galaga, which my mom and dad played Galaga like you would not believe. If my mom were still alive today, she would have this system and she would play Galaga. I bet you money. Star Tropics, Ghosts and Goblins, and Gradius. So the lineup for this system is phenomenal.
Now think about if you were a kid in '85,
Yep,
you bought the NES Classic that was probably what $100,
at
and
least,
then
at least.
you went and purchased all these games.
I think
That
back then the
was
games were what, $30 a piece back in the
yeah,
day.
20, $30. So you're
Yep,
looking at
hundreds,
30
hundreds of games.
games at $20 a piece. I mean, you're talking that's a lot of money, but you're getting it for $70, $60. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
steal. Nintendo's not dumb, man. They know what they're doing.
Now, the alternative here is that you can go get yourself an emulator or whatever, and
Well,
you can
yeah.
find. But the process of doing all that is cumbersome. To load the games is kind of annoying. I'm a techie guy, and I've tried emulators a bunch of times.
It is. It's annoying. It really
It's
is.
annoying. When you pop this thing in, you select your game, you start playing. You don't
And
have
you
to
yeah,
fight with
and you go.
controls. So,
Yep.
yeah, if you want to go the cheap route, you want to go get an emulator. But you know what? I'm looking at a Raspberry Pi kit that I bought that, I got one, Joe, and I'll show you on the camera here.
Yeah.
The Raspberry Pi case, it looks just like a regular Nintendo. It looks almost like the NES Classic. This thing was
Yep.
$90, and I'm going to be using it for different things, but you could use it as an emulator, and that's what a lot of people do. I'm going to use it for home automation, lights and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, people go pay $90 for a Raspberry Pi with all the bells and whistles, or you could get, you could pay the company that made it. You could give back to the developers, even though it's 30 years later. I mean, the right people are making the money here. We know, Nintendo has enough money, but at the same time, they're the ones who gave us the classics, and that's what this NES Classic is all about. I do
Yep.
recommend this thing. I'm going to say go ahead and buy it. I think
Oh, I'd
60.
say buy it. I
Yeah,
did.
I say buy it, and I say $60 is the right price for this thing. Sure, it could come out at 20 or 30, but I will stand by what I said earlier. No way in hell should you have to buy an extension cable or a second controller on this thing. It's a farce that they don't include that. I still
Yeah,
think the $60
that's
is okay for the price point, but I am absolutely appalled that they don't have the proper length cable. Nintendo has plenty of cable. They can include the right length, 6 feet to 8 feet, no less.
yeah. They can afford to give us the
They can
cable for
afford to
crying
give
out
us the
loud.
cable at $60. So I shouldn't have to buy a second controller, and I shouldn't have to sit 2 feet from my 60-inch television. But at the same time, we're getting some of the classics: Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Zelda, Kirby's Adventure, Metroid, Super Mario Bros., and the list goes on. Buy this thing. Get yourself the extension cable if you can handle it, and buy a second controller and get your game on, because this thing's worth it. And I'm going to be making my kids play all the classics.
That's right. I love it, man.
So that leads
All
us
right.
into the next one. Joe, tell us about that SNES.
So as you know, I know I'm a huge gaming collector. So I ended up getting the SNES Classic first because they sold out of all the NES Classics where I was at. So you can pick it up anywhere now. They're readily available in the stores, the NES Classic and the Super Nintendo Classic. Again, same concept. So here's the trick, the key point though. The connector for the SNES Classic and the NES Classic. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin. They're the same connector, right?
You actually, I'm pulling it up now. I'm looking to see
I'm
because
I'm pretty sure they're the same connector. And so if you do happen to buy both, you only need to buy one extender cable. But of course, you're gonna have to buy a second controller for each
it,
system, obviously.
yep, it does look like it.
I'm pretty sure it's the same one. But again, same thing in the box. You get two wired Super NES Classic controllers though when you buy the SNES.
All
That's
right,
the
I'm gonna
the
tell you
upgrade they
something.
got.
I got to butt in here because I just looked it up and I'm actually kind of pissed. So I'm looking. This is from Nintendo on Amazon, and yeah, you can get extension cables, and the extension cables are 3 meters, so about 10 feet. You get a 2-pack for $12, right? And that's a third party. That's the first one that comes up. Now get this shit. The officially licensed Nintendo controller. How much would you say that sells for?
Probably 50, $60.
Oh man, well, 35.
Oh,
No
okay.
way. No way. Don't buy it. So
Don't buy it.
I would say buy this system at $60. Do not buy a second controller for $35 with a goddamn 3-foot cable, and then have to pay another $12 for 2 extension cables.
So you're buying a system for $60 and you're going to spend almost $60 again just to get a controller and a cable. So there is some cons obviously,
However,
but the
there are
pros do
third-party
outweigh.
solutions. So this is where I'm going to suggest third-party solution. Now I'm looking right here. There's a $10 non-Nintendo, but it looks like it's the same exact thing, just a little bit cooler actually. Um, Non-Nintendo, and it's 6 feet. You get a extension cable of 6 feet with a cable of 2.5, so you get a total of about 8.5 feet for $10. So there you
Yep.
go. That's your solution. You get
There's always a third party out there that you can always go for. So I would definitely buy the system, but take a venture and look for the third party cable
never,
and
never, never be
controller.
paying $35 for a regular original Nintendo controller. But that being said, yes, the extension cable will work for both. So Joe, keep us going.
So for the SNES though, there is actually 2 wired controllers in the box, one HDMI cable and everything else. So there's 21 preloaded games. I'm out of those 21, I would have to say the one that was never released. That's the big seller here is Star Fox 2. So everybody remembers playing Star Fox,
Oh yeah.
and they never released Star Fox 2. However, on the SNES Classic, they do. It says, don't miss out on your chance to unlock and play Star Fox 2, the never before released sequel to Star Fox. So that's a little tidbit, when you buy the game. But they have Super Mario World, great game. I mean,
Unbelievable game. Yep.
yeah.
That's history right there.
Super Mario Kart, that's when it first started getting big. And now look at all the Super Mario racing games you got.
It's funny going back and playing that.
My favorite Zelda game of all time is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. That's on there. F-Zero, that was fun. It's pretty much today's modern what's that game you were just talking about?
Wipeout.
Yeah, Wipeout. It's like today's modern Wipeout, basically.
That's what I thought Wipeout was. I thought Wipeout was F-Zero when I was looking at it.
It's pretty much the same concept.
I think that was Nintendo's version of it, or Wipeout was Sony's version of it. It has to be.
Yeah. Super Metroid, Street Fighter 2, Super Punch Out, Castlevania 3, one of the all-time, I bet everybody in the world's played it, Donkey Kong Country.
Oh my goodness. One of the best
Mega Man
games.
10, Kirby Superstar, Final Fantasy 3, Kirby's Dream Course, obviously Star Fox, Yoshi's Island, Contra 3,
Yoshi's Island.
Secret of Mana, Earthbound.
Hold up. You said Contra 3?
Yeah, Contra 3.
Okay, so real quick.
The Alien Wars.
One of the things I love about these old systems is the ability to pick up 2 controllers and play a side-scrolling game. I love online gaming. But Joe, you and I played Contra 3 when you bought this system.
It's hard as shit, man.
It's hard. You got to keep up with each other. You got to coordinate. You got to play. It's true co-op. And I see all these kids saying today.
Could you imagine playing this game in another state with each other on headphones? Holy shit!
I would love it.
I don't know how it'd be done.
I would love it though. I mean, these games are the whole idea of it's just phenomenal. But anyways, not to cut you off, but I just I remember playing with you.
Yeah, that game's amazing. That's the first thing we picked up. I plugged it in, and that's the first game we played was that one. So I'm gonna touch on this one for a minute. I don't know if anybody's played this, but I played it on the computer with an emulator because I didn't have a Super Nintendo at the time.
Because you were a thief.
It's Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars.
No, I never played that one.
Let me tell you, man, this game is amazing. It is a turn-based, just like Final Fantasy games.
I was going to say Final Fantasy. Is it like that?
You adventure out.
You play that Mario and Luigi, Mario and Luigi game on the DS. Where it's kind of like that. I forget what it's called, but Mario and Luigi, and you can be Little Mario and Little Luigi, Big Mario, Big Luigi, and it's turn-based like that on the DS. I can't remember the name of it. My kids play it.
Yeah, I haven't played that one, but
I wonder if it gets some of its concept from that.
It probably does. I mean, it all counteracts together and combines, but Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Man, this game is amazing. You're going to get Princess again because that lady's always getting kidnapped and shit by Bowser. I don't know why she hasn't learned her lesson.
Fucking restraining order.
You're getting the 7 stars to rebuild the bridge to go fight Bowser, and you level up Mario. You get special attacks. You can bring people with you. You find other characters in the game. Man, it's awesome. I beat it all to hell on the computer. I didn't cheat. I didn't use no codes. I just used, I just played the actual game as if you would get it out of the box. Man, phenomenal game. Probably one of
That's
the
awesome.
best Super Nintendo games I've ever played.
I'm looking at some video right now. I do not recall this one, man. I'll tell you. And that's right
I
around
never
the
heard
time
of
I
it.
was. Yeah,
I never heard of it.
I'm a big Mario fan. I'm
I
surprised I've
started
never
getting
seen
into
this.
like Final Fantasy with my buddy Adam, Team Ramtod, and I'd go to his house when we were in school, and I don't like playing those games too much. I love watching them. I could watch you play Final Fantasy for
Yep.
10 hours straight and never get bored. And that's what we'd do. I'd go to his house, we'd play Final Fantasy, and we'd get in like a spot where he's like, "Damn, I'm stuck. Where do I go?" And I'm like, "Oh man, you have to go over here. I just seen this, whatever." And he would do it. But we were playing these games, and I remember looking at Super Mario RPG on the emulator, and I was like, "Man, I've never even heard of this game. It's a Super Mario game." So, oh my God, man, favorite game I've ever played. So fun.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and the turn-based aspect of it is definitely very similar to the Mario and Luigi game I'm referring to, and I'm pulling that up, and I think it's called Partners in Time. Mario and Luigi Partners in Time.
I think my kids have that game actually.
Yeah.
Mario and Luigi Partners in Time.
And
yeah.
it actually just even the graphics and everything, it looks very similar to that. So I'm assuming they probably pulled that same engine and yeah, because it looks almost identical as I'm watching.
But I
the
would
video.
say if you were to buy the SNES Classic, skip all the games because you've already played them. I'm telling you, I have yet to meet very few people that's actually played Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars. My buddy Adam, never even heard of it. He's a huge gamer. And I've mentioned that to a ton of gamers, and they're like, "Yeah, I've never even heard of that game." But obviously, it was good enough for Nintendo to put on their SNES Classic because they only put 21 games on here. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of Super Nintendo games.
What did that retail at?
You can buy this one for $79.99. But again, if you think about it, you could buy the NES Classic for, you said, 60, right?
Yep.
Well, guess what? For $79.99, even though you're getting fewer games, you're getting 21 games, but you're getting a controller. So it's kind of the same deal if you look at it from that aspect. You're losing a little bit of games, but you're getting a controller.
The games on the Super Nintendo they had a bit more content in them.
Yeah, they're larger. Yeah, they are larger.
So I think some of those games actually had more playthrough and more time.
But it's the same controller, like you were talking about before. It's the same controller, same concept, same button, same layout, same color. The Super Nintendo itself is pretty much the same size as Kevin was talking about the NES. But yeah, these are awesome. What I'm hoping for next year, 2019 sometime,
don't even say
bring out. I'm telling you, they're gonna bring it out. They're gonna bring out the Nintendo 64 Classic. They have to.
Dude, I'm gonna have to buy that.
They've already brought out the Sega Genesis Classic. They've already brought out the Atari Classic.
Tell everybody how many of these 64s you already own.
So, if I go somewhere and I see somebody selling something and it's fairly a good price, I'm gonna buy it. I don't care if I got 5 Nintendo 64s right now. I'll have 5 more if I find them cheap enough. I'm trying to get all the colors. I have 2 of the classics, the grays. I have the jungle green that came out, the special edition with Donkey Kong Country. I have that one. I have the aqua blue. Forgive me, I don't know what game that was specific for.
That looks nice, though. That one's awesome.
And then I have that's my favorite one. And then I have the burnt orange. Again, I'm not sure what specific game title that came with. But I have those 3, and I'm still missing the watermelon. There's a purple. I forgot the atomic purple. And then there's one more I'm missing. There's 6 total. But you start getting into these colors, and they're fairly expensive. I mean, you can go on, Amazon or wherever and look at these systems, and you're going to spend $150 plus for a colored system. I ended up getting the aqua blue for $80. And I got the burnt orange for $90. Little expensive, but my collection is pretty nice.
People pay millions of dollars for pieces of art. So, what do you do with a piece of art but look at it? When you can look at something like that.
I'll have all these systems in my basement like I always do, man. I mean,
to me, it's make you feel good. Your setup is phenomenal. I mean, when I went over your house and just sitting around that stuff, it makes you feel good. You're looking up at this stuff, and you might not ever play it, but you got the Sega Dreamcast or whatever it was. Was it the Sega Dreamcast? You got the
Oh,
the
I had this on my wall before I moved. I had my 110-inch screen for my projector, and then I had, the regular Nintendo. I had the Sega Genesis. Or I had the Super Nintendo. Then I had the Sega CD, the Sega Saturn, the Sega Dreamcast. I had all the 64s. I had, the PlayStation. To me, it's just fun because not only is it something to collect. I mean, I could be. You have people that like to go drink. I don't have a problem with that. Go drink, have a good time. People that go to the bars. I mean, hell, I don't go to the bars because that's just not what I like to waste my money on. But you can go to the bar tonight and drop 60, 70, $80 on 3 drinks. And then when you go home, you're like, damn, I just wasted $80 on some drinks I could have went and bought for $20 at the store. See, I don't do that. So I can go splurge $100
same
on
here.
a video game system because I don't go to the clubs and the bars
And smoke and all that. Yeah.
but that's just me. I mean, if you do that, and I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, I enjoy going to the bar every now and then, but a lot of people, that's their weekend habit. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But
It
when I
adds
go to
up.
even my wife, she's okay with it because she knows that I'm gonna spend $100 on this system, but I'm not gonna go out to the bar. I'm not gonna be wasting money on other things. And I
Well,
told
she
her it's an
plays it with you
invest.
too, though. That's the best
Well,
part.
yes, yeah, she does. You're right. But it's an investment. I mean,
You know,
I could probably go buy that Aqua. I bought an Aqua Blue Nintendo 64 for $80. I could realistically go right now and storage, pick it up, and sell it for 140, 150 all
exactly.
day.
If you really needed to,
But
yeah, you could. Yep.
but I can't do that. I can't sell my babies. Okay, I got 37 babies in my basement that I can't sell. But to me, it's just fun, man. I love it. I mean,
It's funny because when we're talking about all this nostalgia and all this stuff, I mean, we're growing up, we're getting older, but we're still kids at heart, And my kids and their friend, we were talking, we were driving around the other day, and one of them asked me, not to make this any religious or anything like that, but they asked me, what do you believe happens when you die? Do you believe in angels and demons and all that? And I just said, no, I don't. I don't. I don't discourage people not, to not, but at the same time, I don't believe that there's angels and demons, but at the same time, I believe in memories. I believe in because he asked me, what do you think happens then? And I said, we are here on this earth to make a mark. And, like you think of what are we reading certain names for in the history books? You got Benjamin Franklin, you got I could name off a million people, but there's a reason for certain people to be remembered. But in everyone's life, there's a reason to be remembered. And within that life, there are things to be remembered. And I think that's the most important thing that we could leave on this world is memories for others. So when I come to your house and I'm sitting around and I'm looking at that wall of memories, to me, it means something to me, and it means something completely different to you, but they're both warm, and they're both phenomenal. And so, it makes me think of my brother. I don't get to talk to my brother as much as I'd love to, but at the same time, we had some great memories growing up, and that's what I see when I look at your wall.
Oh yeah, man, for sure. I mean, for instance, bringing it, back to what you're talking about, memories. So I've been in the military 15 years. I met a buddy of mine named Alex Ray. He'll be on one of these podcasts. His name's Ray Bebe.
Great, bye.
I met Ray probably in 10, 11 years ago, and we played Call of Duty when it came out. We were on mid shift together, third shift, so we'd go home on break for an hour. We'd play Call of Duty. We'd come back to work. Well, Ray ended up PCSing overseas to Guam. Well, I still got to hang out with Ray through video games. We played Call of Duty over the headset, and I still got to talk to Ray. How's the wife? How's the kids? We didn't do it every day, but we did it at least twice a week. So we never had that. We never had that misconnect. Whenever you didn't talk to somebody for like a year or 6
Well,
months.
that's how you and I are. Yeah, that's how you and I are staying connected.
Exactly. Me and Kevin's got a podcast, but we play Fortnite all the time together, and even we never had that misconnect. As soon as we pick up the headset, boom, how's it? Boom, we're at it.
And Jed,
and,
I mean, same thing. Yeah, that's how Jed and I stayed connected through all his years in the military.
And Ray is still overseas. He's at Mildenhall now in England, but
Wait,
I still.
Is he really?
Yeah,
That's
he's been overseas for like. He's been overseas like 7 years, man. But out of those 7 years, I've not missed Ray because I've talked to him
Yeah.
all the time, and like
It's funny because I
he'll
always see him on at odd hours, and I'm like, man, I thought
well,
that guy's in the military, but
yep, he's over in
that's why.
Milton, so his
Okay.
yep. And then another one of my buddies, Eddie, he's over on the east or the west coast in California. He gets on from time to time, but it's easier now for kids with technology just to keep in contact, man. Like when
Yeah.
I was younger, there was no Facebook, there was no FaceTime, but a big thing though is video games. Like you can get online at any time of the day, and your buddy's online. Boom, put the headset in, play a couple hours, catch up.
And
While
it's
you're
funny
playing
what
a game, you're catching up, man. It's
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 funny what
awesome. I
10
love it.
years did because like we were just talking about, 85, right? Nintendo comes out. Well, my sister's 10 years older than me, so she's about 15. Um, my oldest sister Tracy and Lisa, neither one of them really into video games or anything like that. They always kind of felt like I always spent too much time playing video games. And even as I got older, I still love playing them. And like you were saying, I don't go to the bars that often. I don't go out too much. I play video games. I save money playing video games by spending money playing video games. And I look at it that way.
Sounds weird, but it's actually a true
It's
statement. It
true.
works out that way.
I love buying shots for people. So if I go out, next thing you know, I'm down $200, and I'm like, I don't feel bad
That's
about
true
it, but at the
too.
same time, I just I like
I've been
having
on
a good
that end.
time. Yeah, I dropped $500 once one night, and it was a mistake. I didn't even mean to, but I did. And it's like, what does that $500 go to? I could buy a couple systems.
Oh, you could have bought all kinds of stuff for $500.
Yeah, so, but, I was talking to her today, and she was going out to dinner, and she messages me after she gets out of dinner, or when she was in dinner, and she said, the restaurant I'm at is playing an esports thing on TV. So you have the Washington Nationals, which is their local team, on a little TV off to the side, and on the big TV at a restaurant, they're playing video games. And she thought that was the weirdest thing, and I just said, Tracy, it's the wave of the future. It's the way the world has turned. Us geeks,
It is.
us nerds, now have the time and the money and the energy to change the world, and this is what we're doing. This is how we're changing the world. We're taking away the funds from those big time ball players, and we're putting them in the pockets of the smart people who know how to play video games and know how to make things happen. So I'm all behind it. I love it.
I mean, I just think the video game industry is crazy. I mean, you have people on Twitch, people on YouTube. I mean, I know we've already mentioned Ninja in the past, but he's just easy to talk about. The dude makes $500,000 a month off subscribers. Not to mention, he just got a huge sponsorship from Red Bull. And that's just to name one. I mean, you have
I was watching a guy
hundreds.
yesterday, Joe. Watching a guy yesterday on Twitch. Chipotle is sponsoring this dude. Dr. Pepper is sponsoring this dude. These companies, if you're looking at a TV screen or whatever, Twitch or whatever, and you're seeing Chipotle and Dr. Pepper and Red Bull getting involved,
That dude's getting paid.
he's getting paid, but you also know it's where it's at. People are paying attention
Yeah.
to that. And so, like it or not, when I was a kid, my parents said, don't get too close to the TV. You can't play too many video games. You're going to go crazy, blah, blah, blah. Look at where we're at today. These people are making millions. Joe,
man,
we
I
missed the boat
encourage
by
it.
10 years. We missed the boat
We
by
did, man.
10
And and you hear a lot of parents these days, and they're like, "Oh man, my kids are always outside playing." I'm like, "That's fine. My kids go outside whenever they want. My door is always open. They can go out
And you
there.
don't,
I'm not gonna say get in the yard. I'm just saying, I'm like, hey, sometimes I'm like, hey man, get outside and play a little bit, get some sun on your face. But it's just one of the things that
well,
it comes natural to my kids, man.
you
They
know what's
love it,
awesome,
and
Joe? And I
it's
noticed this
fun.
about your kids too, with my kids, especially when we were in Orlando. My kids have no problem. If I said, turn off the video game system, we're going outside. They turn off the video game system, we go outside, we have fun. If I say
Yeah.
we're going out to Disney or we're going out to the mall or whatever, they do it. And they enjoy, they interact. They're okay with interacting. And that's one of my biggest fears when I was a kid, or sorry, when I first had my first kid, was that I'm a gamer. I'm going to let him be a gamer. I love him to make millions gaming, but at the same time, I don't want him to be weird. I don't want him to not have a social life. And it has not hindered that, I don't think.
Well, you got to remember
he's
though. You got to
still
remember
young, but
when we were kids, there was no chat, there was no headphones, there was no online gaming.
yeah,
So you were kind of like a loner in your house unless you
And
had
they're
a
more
buddy
social
over.
now than we were at going out to parties. I mean, these kids are talking
That's
to
what I'm
people.
saying.
Yeah.
That's what, because
I
they're
went to
used to
parties and I
playing
sat in
video
the
games,
corner.
man.
I was the shortest kid in school. No one wanted to hang out with me. I sat in the corner at a party feeling like a loser. If I had a headset, I'd be like, "Yeah, everybody, what's going on?" I'd be the funniest
I
guy
know,
around.
right? You could DJ Kev.
So
But I don't
so
know, man. It's just a new world, man.
it
Video
is.
games has come full circle from being, you know, you get a black eye for playing video games to now it's like, oh my god, why aren't you playing video
Yeah,
games?
yeah, and that's what's awesome about it. I mean, you're dead on right there. So the verdict on this SNES, what do you say? You say buy it?
Oh yeah, 100%, man. You gotta have it because I mean it's especially if you have kids and
Yep.
you're a '80s baby like we are. I mean, dude, you gotta put that in front of them. And be like, look, you're playing on a PS4 Pro 4K with the greatest graphics. You can see that hair blowing on this dude's neck. This is what your dad had. You know
Well,
what
I'm
I
telling
mean?
you what.
Play this and then
I,
see what you like. You
I
know what I
want to
mean?
make some obstacle course type challenges, and I don't know if you ever see Mr. Beast on YouTube. He's the guy who just gives away money.
Oh,
If you
I
haven't
could use
seen,
some money.
yeah, Mr. Beast, man. I don't want to give too much. This guy's channel is phenomenal. He does YouTube videos about giving people things. He gets
That's
sponsored to
awesome.
do it, but he's obviously rich or has come into money in some capacity. I don't know the background of him at all, but
Well, that's my biggest fear of becoming like rich. If I were to ever become rich, I would just have too much fun giving money out.
yeah,
Cause like I'm poor now, and I'll see kids in like the grocery store wanting a bag of chips or
you buy him
something,
a
and
bag of chips.
their mom's like, oh well, I only have a money, for these three items. I'm like, I got it. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm not rich, but it's just fun to see someone
to make somebody's day.
smile.
That's
Yeah,
what
man,
this
it's
guy
it's
does. He has this one
I
video
could
where and it's funny because Epic Games, when Fortnite was getting real big, he sucks at it, but he goes in and plays, and I think he got in it with Ninja, and he paid Ninja a lot of money to train him, and he ended up going into the tournaments and stuff just because of his notoriety. But he's actually got a huge YouTube channel. So Epic Games gave him like I'm gonna butcher this. I think it was $20,000. And he took that $20,000 cash and he went into like local restaurants and just started tipping people hundreds of dollars for no reason.
Oh man, that'd be so fun.
You
I
know,
mean,
and he would
so
videotape the reaction, and that's his content. His content is you watching these people get paid, and it looks kind of. The first time I watched this guy, I was like, "What a prick!" I mean, he's just this rich guy tipping people, and he's not, but he's not. He's not a prick about it. That's the best part. If you watch him a little bit, you realize he seems like a pretty decent guy.
it's not video game related, but same thing back when I lived in Illinois, there was a mystery shopper that would, undetected go to the layaway section
Yep.
and be like, I need you to pull up 5 layaways. And, they'd be like, well, what name? It doesn't matter. Just give me 5 layaways. And then they would be like, for what reason? And they're like, I'm going to pay them off.
Oh yeah, I've heard
And
about that.
he's,
Yeah, the
he's like,
Christmas.
he was like, don't look at the totals. Just pull up any 5 and let me know. And they would pull up 5 random layaways and they'd be like, okay, it'll be $1,000 or whatever. And the person would pay it. And then as you come up with your $9 or $10 you saved, you'd be like, hey, I want to put my $10 on this layaway. Oh, it's been paid off.
Yep.
You know how freaking cool that would be, man, to like
It's phenomenal.
but you don't even get to see the face. You don't even get to see the reaction, but they still do it, man.
They
I would
do
I
it.
would have to be
Yeah.
like I'd be hiding like in the clothes with like peeping out, like, oh, let me see that reaction you're gonna get. You give me a
Yeah,
million dollars, you give me $1 million, I'll be broke in a week because I'd just be handing it out, man. It'd be so fun.
I know that's the kind of stuff. Check him out, Mr. Beast. So yeah, he did this all these different YouTube videos. I forget what I was getting into about it, but he just tips people money, and it was great to see. I forget what we segued into this for, but I know we're getting late into this podcast. We could talk for hours, but there was a couple more things I wanted to talk about real quick. And in the since we're still on it, the classic and the retro gaming and stuff. I have to bring this VR aspect in, Joe, because like I said in the first one, by the end of this thing, you're going to be playing that VR. You and I are going to be playing VR baseball and VR whatever. I'll beat your ass in Wipeout if you let me.
You're not gonna beat my ass in any game, Brady.
And that's the
Okay?
challenge. So that's
None.
the goal. That's the goal. So I sent you this video the other day, And what it is the Sega Classic Collection. Now, Sega released on the PlayStation. I don't know if it's on Xbox. I'm assuming it's on all the systems, but I don't know. They released the Sega Classics Collection, which is a bunch of the Sega games, just like we're talking about with these systems, but it's a disc you pop into your PlayStation or a download, and you can play all the games the same as what we were just talking about.
That would
And it
be
was
kind of fun, though. I'm not gonna lie. That'd be
it's
that'd be
30
interesting.
bucks. Well, so this game has been out for a while, and all of a sudden, kind of out of nowhere, and I think, you know what, it was on PC because the PC version of this has been out for a little while for VR. Well, all of a sudden, the PSVR got an update for the Sega Genesis Classics edition, and it is phenomenal. What it is there's 53 games, and they're all the classics of the Genesis. You got Alien Soldier, Alien Storm, Altered Beast. Let me just read off a couple here. You got the original
Bro,
Crackdown.
Altered Beast is no joke.
Is the beast.
That game is hard. Jesus.
I loved Altered Beast, man. That was one of my favorites back in the day.
That's a good game. It's just super hard.
Yeah, oh yeah, it is. Crackdown. They're coming out with Crackdown 3 coming out soon. I'm pretty sure this is the original Crackdown. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, which was their, they got Dr. Robotnik's from, wasn't that Mega Man?
Yeah. Hey, they better have Sonic on there, right?
Oh yeah, they have Sonic. But so they have Golden Axe 2, 3, Gunstar Heroes, Kid Chameleon, man, Phantasy Star 2, 3, and 4, Rise Star, Shining Force, Shinobi 3.
Oh,
Sonic,
Shinobi. Let's
dude.
get it.
Yep, Sonic 3D Blast, Sonic Spinball, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Streets of Rage 2, 3, Super Thunderblade. I mean, the list goes on. The Revenge of Shinobi. Here's my favorite, Toe Jam and Earl. Booyah. There it is. Yeah. Virtual Fighter, man. All these games, okay? You got 50-something games. Now, the way it works is in VR, you walk into a bedroom that looks like your bedroom when you were a kid, and you have a CRT monitor, like a TV, and on that TV, you see the cables and everything. This is all in the VR world, and you can kind of navigate this VR world, and you can go over, and you can grab a cartridge off the shelf, and you insert it into your system, and you can sit down and play in front of a TV. And they have 2 different views. You can have the view as if you're sitting in the room, and you can still look around and look at this crappy monitor and play your game just like the old days. Or you can cut off the outside world, cut off the fake world, and just have the screen in front of you in a black void, kind of, where you focus on the game. But the coolest aspect of this, Joe, is that it's multiplayer. All these games that have 2-player, you can play multiplayer VR in a room on a CRT monitor with your friends. And I think that right there, for 30 bucks. Now, we're talking 60 bucks for the NES Classic. We're talking 70, 80 bucks for the SNES Classic. Well, this one is more games than those 2 combined for 30 bucks.
Yeah.
Some of the most amazing games in our history. When we're talking about Genesis and the fight that they had with Nintendo, it's sad that they lost the way that they did. They lost the war.
Let me chime in on one thing.
Yeah.
This is what sucked. So, if you go back to where Sega owned the video game system, they owned the world, man. Sega was the first disc-based system with a Sega CD.
Sega CD.
Followed up with a Sega Saturn. They were also the first gaming console to ever be connected to the internet with the Sega Dreamcast by a landline. And, Sega moved so fast, in my opinion, no one could keep up with them. Like, none of the humans was like, oh, okay, we're going to go to the internet now. Well, internet wasn't even known. But Sega was like, no, bullshit. The internet's going to rule the world.
That is
right.
They jumped right in.
And, it killed them. I think they pushed too fast. And then if you look what happened next, PlayStation came around. PlayStation, PS1 came out with the disc. And then what happened after that? PlayStation 2, boom, connected to the internet.
Joe, you know what's interesting? You know what's interesting about the whole thing nowadays? You can kind of hear the story, the behind the scenes, and I don't know if you know this, but I'm sure you do actually. The first PlayStation was the Nintendo Sony PlayStation.
Yeah, and actually, there was a guy I read an article about it has one in his attic
Yep. So
in the box. I
working,
could not
right?
even imagine. Oh yeah, he I couldn't even imagine the money that that dude has in his attic, and he's had it for years.
So
He was
so if
like,
you
"Oh
think
yeah, I
about
found
that,
those."
you know, especially in this day when you find out the politics of how things work and you know the bigger companies, that these two were the Goliaths. You had Nintendo and you had Sega, the Goliaths of the game industry at the time, and they were fighting it out. And Nintendo was pulling out all the stops, and then they're working with Sony, which at the time was the up and coming. You know, they were big, but not in the
Yeah,
states, not as much as they are today. And so the Nintendo's working with Sony and going against Sega. And then Sony said, you know
but
what? Why are we going to work with you? We can do this on our own. So they pulled away and made their own Sony PlayStation, which, as you can see today, I mean, is the number one selling
yeah,
console.
but at the same time though, you gotta look at the other side of the fence. Sega was like, you know what? I'm not even competing with you guys anymore for consoles. We're just gonna make video games.
Yep. And they do a hell of a job
You
with their games,
It's
or
like
they
you guys
did.
waste time. You go ahead and make the video games consoles. I'm just gonna make the games, and they did, man. And they made you know billions of dollars and stuff like that on it. And I mean, it pisses me off, man, because the Sega Dreamcast was amazing.
I
It was
loved it.
awesome, and it just I don't know, man. I think they went too fast, and no one was backing them up enough. But anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to
So,
cut you
so
off.
no,
It just kind of
don't worry
pissed
about
me
it.
off.
But I'm going to tell you right now, buy this. If you have VR, buy this thing. I'm pretty sure that even Joe, if you were to buy it and I was playing in the VR, I'm pretty sure you could do crossplay, or not crossplay, but multiplayer with in and out of VR because it's a flat game as well. I don't think you have to be in VR to play the
Well,
multiplayer
if I was
aspect.
gonna buy it, I'd have to play it in VR. It'd be even better.
I know, dude. The next time
I give VR a bad rap, but it's not. I mean, the games are awesome. Um, I
you just
just
got to
get sick.
find the
So,
right one. You got to find the right one.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Joe, I mean, we can get more into this. You got to try it. Um, I'm gonna text Jason after this and say, hey, get Joe your VR unit for a little bit. They have Rec Room, which I think we talked about a little bit, right? Where it looks like the Mii's, which is from the Nintendo. Rec Room is a VR game. It's like the first step in the Oasis. That's you kind of laugh at this, but the Oasis is that virtual world in that what was that game? That gaming VR movie that just came out. Drawing a blank here. The one that just came out that's on DVD right now.
Gaming VR.
Ready Player One.
Oh, Ready Player One. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. So in Ready Player One, you put on your headset and you go into the Oasis, which is the virtual world that is way better than the current world you're in. Well, it's kind of the opposite right now. Rec Room is kind of a kid's playground right now, but it's you put on your headset and you go into a rec room. It's like a boys club or something, you know. Eh, Wesley wants to play the Nintendo Switch, so we're gonna have to let him do that here in a few minutes. But I have been in here for a while. But no, so you put on the headset, you get into this room, and every person you see walking around, they look like a Nintendo Mii. You know, they don't look like a human; they just look like a bobbly head walking around with a round belly, but they're all people. Unfortunately, this game caters to 7 to 10-year-olds. So as a 38-year-old man, you're on this thing, trying to play games, and you're dealing with little kids, which is not always the funnest experience, but at the same time, you can find good groups of people. And if you have friends that play this game, it's free. It's completely free. And anybody can make anything. So there's different rooms, right? You go in Rec Room, you go off to another side room, and now all of a sudden you're in The Office, which looks like the TV show The Office, and someone built it. You can go in and play a shooting game or whatever. People making puzzles and all sorts of things. And the developers have given people these tools to allow kids and adults and anybody to make whatever they want. So that kind of like Dreams that we were talking about, that how that's going to be, you can do
Yeah, we
whatever
were
you want.
talking about Dreams a couple podcasts ago. That's going to be one of the if that game comes out and does what it's supposed to do, and
It's going to change the world.
it's developed, it's
But
polished, it's going to be
so you know what's funny
ridiculous.
about Rec Room, Joe, is you give people the power to do whatever they want. Well, in Rec Room, you have the same people who are looking forward to Dreams and looking forward to these other games. Here's another one that came out called Cool Paint VR. And Cool Paint VR is just you're in a blank space and you're painting like Bob Ross or whatever, but it's in a virtual 3D
Yeah.
world. So people see these games that are doing good. Oh, you want a roller coaster? All right, I'm going to go in Rec Room and make a roller coaster. Oh, you want a painting simulator? I'm going to go in Rec Room and make a painting simulator. And it's just consistent, right? So someone came along and started building Rec Royale, which is Fortnite in Rec Room in VR. And so this has actually taken off significantly, and you can go in and you can play Fortnite practically. It's cheesier looking for sure, right? It's more Nintendo-y looking, but it's the same type of game. You're running around an island, and instead of a storm, you have the swarm, which is bees. So the circle is it's all bees coming in at you, and you have to stay within the circle. And the guns are a little cheesy in this particular game. You know, you're shooting, it's like paintball guns as opposed to real guns or anything like that.
Well, I mean,
But
you can't follow the exact layout. I mean,
exactly, but it looks very similar, and and it caters to the whole genre of battle royale. So then the Rec Room developers put this as a release, as a full release into the game, and have pushed it, remapped their servers, pumped up their server space, and then they just this week released a squad-based Rec Royale game. So now, before it was all solo. Now it's squad based, and it has proximity
nice.
volume, right? So if you're sitting there and your headset's on and you're hiding behind a wall and you know someone's on the other side of that wall, you can shout at them and they can hear you. But if you walk far away and you talk, they can't hear you because you're further away, or they can tell you're further away. So the game uses proximity volume, which is phenomenal. It uses first person, real world, virtual world looking aspects. You open up chests to get your guns and stuff. So you get this VR set up, and you can play some Rec Royale. And I'm going to try to get Jason to let you borrow his. I don't know if you talk to Jason often, but I don't.
Every now and then.
He's busy as hell,
really,
but
well,
I'm going to
he
tell
plays
him.
he plays a lot of games that I don't play, so that's one of the offsets of me and him. But I would like to borrow a VR headset for a while before I
I
went and
think
spent
you'll
the
end up
money.
buying it. You need to borrow one before the Thanksgiving Day rush, because I just got the VR setup. I got a second VR headset, believe it or not. And the second one, it was $200.
Well, Kevin, you could probably just send it to me. Thanks. Love you too, buddy.
I know. I was gonna sell it, Joe, but to be honest, I'm playing VR games, 2-player VR games now in my house. I was gonna, but I'm a geek, so when it comes to it, we got me and Jagger over here with our headsets on playing Rec Royale or whatever, and so it's kind of cool. But $200, you get the headset, you get whatever you need, and if you got to buy Move controllers, I think, but you can get them on eBay still for like $40-$50 for the set. So for $200, you can get yourself started with VR. When the sales come out. So wait for like the next big sale, Black Friday. I'm sure they're going to have a big sale, and it might even be less than $200 at that point. But that's a good price point, and it's so worth it because the amount of free content you can get with VR, along with the cheap
there is a lot of
content.
free games you can get.
I mean, the sales that come out. You know how sales on Steam, if you ever pay attention to Steam sales, all these awesome games, they end up dropping once the price point is saturated. Like these $60 games, they know they're not selling anymore. All of a sudden, they're $20 games and $10 games and $5 games. Well, that's what's happening with VR. These $20 games are going on sale for $4 a pop. So
they've already made their money in the front end, so they're they're trying to get every nickel and dime they can.
Exactly, and they're just trying to get people to play their game because the servers are still live, trying to get activity going, and then the prices go back up 2 weeks later. When the sale's over, the prices are back to normal, and people will continue to buy because now there's volume and stuff. So, that's one aspect. Hopefully we'll get you in there and we'll be able to play together and talk about that in a future podcast. But
Joe, we'll get on there, man. We'll get it.
Yeah, so before we wrap up, go ahead and give a shout out to Lucid Sound because they definitely deserve it.
Yeah, man. So anybody looking for a gaming headset, I'm telling you right now, lucidsound.com, LUCID sound.com. Phenomenal headsets. I have a pair of LS20s. They're wired. They're $100. They have left and right push buttons on the ears for mic and game volume, instant mute. I can't say enough good things about them. They're metal. They're a little heavy, but they're actual metal. It's not plastic. It's not something you're gonna break. So I'd prefer them over any other headset. You can get wireless headsets. They're a little bit more expensive, but I got you covered. If you go on lucidsound.com, use my promo code TEAMEMAR, TEAMEMAR, all one word. I'll save you 20% on any gaming headset. And they're pretty loyal by their customers too. I'm an affiliate, obviously, and I have the main guy of Lucid Sound text out, or he sent a tweet out to all of his people saying that if you have any problems with your Lucid Sound headsets, let me know. I reached out to him and said, yeah, one of my left ear making a weird noise. Within 6 days, I had a brand new headset, no questions asked.
And you were talking about that last time. How's that? Is that headset solid? This new one?
Oh man,
I mean,
it's
obviously it
phenomenal.
is, right?
I use it every night. It's
You sound crystal clear when we're playing, man. You used to have that one headset, you'd come in and out and sound all staticky, and now
yeah,
you sound crystal clear.
well, I'll tell you what the problem was. So I did a lot of traveling when I was in the military. So the headset it has a built-in equalizer, so you can charge the equalizer. And I would take it on road trips with me, and I'd listen to music, I'd watch movies, and the wear and tear I was giving them wasn't what the wear and tear was for.
Yeah.
I was throwing it in my backpack. I was throwing it in my duffel bag. I was sitting on them on the plane, and I put them through the ringer. But I did that for over a year, and I was going on missions 2-3 times a month. For 3-4 days at a time.
Plus, your kids were getting a hold of them too, weren't they?
Yeah, my kids were playing them. I mean, I put these Lucid Sounds through the ringer, man, and they held up. I mean, they went over a year, and I was just getting a little fuzz in the left ear. But obviously, the new ones, the ones I just got, I'm actually using them for gaming only. But yeah, super clear.
When I was saying you sounded staticky, that wasn't the Lucid sound you were using. It was the other headset you had that, you remember that had the one ear?
Oh yeah, they were like $20. Yeah, those things.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, these Lucid Sound is an amazing headset. I would definitely, I'd prefer them to anybody out there. Like I said, Team EMAR promo code 20% off.
Well,
Hope
that's
you all
excellent.
have fun and get one.
I'm going to tell you right now, as we wrap it up, not to keep hammering about the Lucid sound, because it doesn't matter really what headset you're wearing, as long as you have that stereoscopic sound. My buddy just got a pair of Turtle Beaches. I have a pair of Turtle Beaches. I think the next headset I'm going to get is the Lucid Sound, because you have so many good things to say about it. But then you have what's that other? There's another one that begins with an A, I think.
You have Astros.
Astros, yeah. There's a couple of different headsets, and they are kind of pricey, right? So when you're,
the Astros are
ridiculous,
Astros are
$250
like in the $250s, and I mean, people like them. People live by them, but again. My buddy was playing
Fortnite with the one ear headset, and so all the sounds coming into his left ear. He didn't realize that when you have a 2-ear stereoscopic sound, you can tell if they're above you, below you, behind you, beside you. You can tell if your opponent or your teammate. You can tell every little bit of detail. You can tell if they're walking on grass or gravel or whatever in that game. So for those of you who are playing something like a Fortnite or a Call of Duty, my current headset, I think I have the Elite 800X. I have different settings. I have footstep focus mode. I have superhuman hearing mode. I have all these different modes I can go into, and I try them all out. And I pick the one that's best for me, but it makes a significant difference. If you know that there's a person behind you. So if you play Fortnite, you know that there's a spectator mode when you die. Well, whenever I die, I watch the people who are playing, and they're running around, and I'm like, you can still hear from their perspective if someone's on their left or their right or behind them. And I'm in my headset.
And you know right away.
Yeah.
You know right away if they're even wearing headsets. Right
exactly,
away. Turn around, dude. You're going to get shot.
There's a guy right behind you, man. Come on. And you're cheering on the guy who killed you. So, yeah, it makes a significant difference. So, while we recommend Lucid Sound here, get yourself a pair of good headphones, and you'll become an instantly better gamer, because these games are implementing that.
And don't spend the $30 or $40 on the
Walmart
headsets.
brand, don't do it.
It's only gonna work for like a week. I mean, if you really want to get a good quality headset, I mean, Lucid Sound, Turtle Beach, I can't really push Astros because they're just super
too expensive. But that's what the pros wear. The professionals who who are getting paid to do this are going to wear the Astros, because that is the best, or one of the best headsets. The most clear, the highest clarity and the lowest feedback and all that. So, yeah, we have to recommend the The Lucid
Yeah,
Sound.
definitely get a good headset. It will make a huge difference in playing games. Trust me. I mean, even because I used to play a lot of times, me and my wife would play in the same room, and I would just play through my Bose system. But I'm telling you, you slap a great set of headphones on, and you're gonna start noticing stuff and hearing stuff that you didn't even know was in the game. So, but do your research, go out and look. Obviously, you need to pick out what's best for you guys, what fits your budget. But
Yeah.
the LS20 is what I have. They started at $100, and
80
you can
bucks
go
if you
on
go
up.
through Team Emar Gaming's promo code.
That's right. But they go up to 100. They go up to $200. But again, you get 20% off. So it is a little give and take. So I just
Well,
recommend a good headset though.
hey, listen, as we wind down this podcast, I just want to give one more shout out to Rocco W. You can get him. He's the guy. Speaking of music and all that, throw on your headset, your Lucid Sound headset, and listen to some Rocco W. Joe, get your ass over to his free music archive. That's freemusicarchive.org/RoccoW, ROCCOW. You have to check this guy's page out. I don't know if you had a chance to navigate through it, but one of the rules here is that we have to advise you to go check him out. We have to give the credit where credit is due, but that's the reason I picked this guy. This guy makes some of the most amazing and the coolest music. I like listening to this 8-bit music in the background while I do things. It kind of keeps my brain normalized, even though it's chaos music. But check it out. He has dozens and dozens and dozens of songs that he made off of a Game Boy, and they just sound cool. We're going to throw another one in there. I don't know which one I'm going to pick. I'll probably put the keyword here. I'll put the name of it in the details of our podcast when I upload it. But as this podcast winds down, you're going to hear some more of Rocco W. Our intro is Break a Leg. That's the song we use, and you can hear him again on Free Music Archive. And also you can tweet him at Rocco W on Twitter. So, Joe, anything else you want to say before we wrap up this podcast?
Nah, man, enjoy gaming, guys. Again, do some research on whatever video game systems you want. The SNES, NES, they're both good ones. VR, gaming headsets, just, do your research, what fits your budget, enjoy life, and, hey, man, happy gaming.
I'm right there with you. And as I wrap up, I just want to say, this week we talked about nostalgia. Next week we're going to get into, or Monday or Tuesday, we're going to get into the future. We're going to talk about what's next and what we really, really are looking forward to, what's coming out around the corner and all that. So stay tuned for what's to come. We appreciate y'all listening. Give us your feedback. Joe, it's been awesome talking to you. I'm sure we're going to be talking some more later on tonight on Fortnite or whatever game we choose to pick up. So
yeah, man,
peace
when
out,
this is
brother.
over, we're getting on Fortnite. Have a good one, buddy.
Take care,
Good night,
bro.
everybody.
Take care. Podcast out.
Thank you.